let's now complete the last part of the student class. So we want to add some error handling mechanism, some simple ones, to your student class. The way we do it is by adding attributes to your student class so every time there's an error, we can check to see if the attribute values is certain value. And then we can also print out the error message if we want to. Okay, let me show you exactly how we can do it. Okay, so now what I would do is, so these are where we left off from before. So let's say after this, so also the way I'm trying to show you just one way of doing it. Okay, so now what we can do is now, especially let's have some motivating example. Let's say over here, so this is what we have had so far. So we got 3 courses with the title over here. You can see that the title is 1022, 2030, and also 3311. So these are the 3 courses we have added so far. One case where we might signal an error is, let's say we try to say we want to add a 4th course, but over here we say that add course record. You can see the context object is S, this object over here, and then we say add course record EECS 2030. This should be considered as an error because EECS 2030 already exists. What if we don't signal any error? What's going to happen? Let's see this in the tester. Okay, let's say currently we don't have any error mechanism just yet, but let's go to the student tester. So now let's try the following. Okay, so now it's out over here, adding an existing adding a new course with clashing title. Okay, now let's try this, and then let's say EECS 2030, okay, to be more informative for you. And then what we can say is, we can say s dot add course records. Let's call the second version over here, and then EECS 2030. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. After this, to illustrate the issue, I'm going to say s out over here, and then we're going to say s dot to string. Okay, that's what we'll do. Okay, let's see exactly what's going to happen. Okay, so now if we try to run the code over here, let's see what's going to happen. No exceptions will be occurring. However, if you look at after adding a new course with clashing title 2030, this is the array we have. You can see NOC is now 4, okay, because we just added 1 course. But if you look at the contents of the array, okay, so now first of all we got 1022, and we have 2030 with C+, and also we got 3311 with A, but now we got another 2030 over here with F. So in the same semester, a student has the same course with different grades, F versus C+. It doesn't make real sense. Okay, so now in this case, what we should have done was, if you try to add an existing title for the new course, in that case you should really somehow signal an error and then try to display some error message. So how do we do that? I'll show you. So now what we can do is, let's go back to, let me just close the course record class to avoid confusion. Let's go to our student class. Okay, so now what we can, so I can simply add 2 new attributes over here. Let me just show you how it should work. Okay, what I want to do is, I want to add 2 attributes to my student class. Okay, first of all, I want to do, let me just use, let's say, pink. How about that? I want to add 1 new attribute over there, which is error. And this is going to be a Boolean attribute. Initially, let's say false. Initially, there's nothing wrong, no errors. And then I also have another attribute over here, and I can call that error message, MSG for message. And then it can be also a string. Let's say initially it's simply just empty string, for example. Okay, so now if there's an error, we're going to set the error attribute over here to be true, and then set the error message over here to be some stuff. Okay, let's say for this particular case, let's say we're trying to do this over here. 2030, I can see already 2030 exists in our course record over here. So now what we'll do is we'll set this to be true. And meanwhile, we'll set this to be, for example, something like this. You can say error, it can already exist, something like that. I'll elaborate that when I type in Java. Already exist, something like that. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so now let's try that. So now what we can do is, so now we can say Boolean, and then error, and then we can also say error, also string error message. Okay, like that. Okay, so now of course what you could have said would be you can simply say false over here and empty string over here, but it's not so recommended for this course since you're a beginner. So I would suggest you try to initialize your attributes only in the constructor rather than putting that here. So there's only a single place where you can see all the initial values for your attributes. Okay, so what I can say is I can say error is assigned to false in the beginning, and also error message is assigned to empty string. Of course, I need to fix the typo over here. That should be error message. Okay, like that. Okay, like that. And then what I would do instead over here, so now I need to have two ways to either set or reset. The reason being, so now if I do have some error and error message over here, so that means I may want to print it out. Okay, but now as soon as I do another operation, let's say after this, I say s.add course record over here. Let's say if I have EECS, hypothetically, if I say 2011, in which case it doesn't exist. In this case, after completing this method here, so we are basically going to add another course object over here and link it, right? So now in that case, we should really set the error back to false. And then set the message back to empty string. So basically every time after every method that you really want to signal an error or not error, you should really change the error or error message accordingly. Okay, so you gotta either set or reset the error. Okay, I'll show you how you can do that. Okay, so now I'm gonna support two methods over here. You can say void set error over here, and then you can say string error message. Easy. So this dot error message is assigned to error message, and also reset the error, which means that after the current method, there's no more error. Okay, so now in this case, you can simply say error is, oh, sorry, before I do that, set error, we can say, we gotta say this dot error is assigned to true, right? That means there's some error. And now on the other hand, when we say reset the error, this dot error is now go back to false. There's no more error. Okay, and then this dot error message is actually is simply equal to empty string. Okay, that's what we have. Okay, so now set error and reset error. And now where can we print the error message? The best candidates, for example, will be the toString method. So usually when you're developing your mobile app, you will actually include the toString method in your controller to display on the text view. So you better do it here. Okay, so this is what you can do. You can say overall, if you want to print out the toString value for this particular students, you can say if the last method I call on this particular student objects, if there was an error, I'll simply print out the error message. Otherwise, I'll tell you how the student should look like. Okay, I'll show you. So what I can do is I'll say if error over here, in this case, let me just do something over here. Okay, let's say eventually I want to return the S, right? So now if error S will be assigned to error message. Okay, this not error message if you like. And then otherwise, no error. In that case, I can simply just do the following. I can do just as before, cut and paste. You can see basically if you compare with the previous version, basically this is what we did previously, but now we try to do something extra to say if there's an error from the last method we call. For example, you're trying to add some existing course title as a new course. In this case, we'll only print out the error message. Otherwise, we'll print out as before what has been added, right? That's what we'll do. Okay, that's another thing we want to fix. And now, how do we go back to, so how do we use a set and reset error mutated methods? Okay, I will recap in a moment. Okay, so now I can go to add course record over here. Okay, how do we do that? So basically over here, we want to say add course record. You can see that this add course record, this first version here will be called by the second version anyway. So we only have to fix this one here. So the change will be reflected on here anyway, no matter what. Okay. So now basically we want to say the following. If cr.title, which is the input, right? If cr.title already exists, then error. Otherwise, add the course. Okay, how do we specify this? Basically a selection. So now again, think about what we're trying to do. We're trying to find a matching course, a course record with a matching title, right? So now we can actually call our index of course method as we defined before, right? So now let's try that. Integer index is assigned to index of course, and then what should be the matching title? cr.title, right? You can see dot notation is used everywhere. Okay, dot notation over here, cr.title, and then we can say if index is larger than or equal to, let's do the non-error case first. Non-error case first. If it is less than 0, that means the course has not been added before. In that case, we can do what we did before. Okay, the course title does not exist. Otherwise, we have to set some error message, and then in this case, we can say set error, right? And then set the error over here. We can give some error message over here. We can say error title cr.title already exists. Okay, and then make sure in the case where there's no error, you can just extend. You can just have a new line. Also, you can say reset error. Okay, just make sure the error message is empty, and also the error attribute is actually false. Okay, so now this is the extension we have. Let me recap very briefly what I have added. So what we basically added in this tutorial video is to say on top of what we developed from before, we're going to have some error mechanism to handle things like if you're trying to add a new course record with clashing course title. How can you do that? So number one, we declared two new attribute values, error and error message. Error is Boolean, false if there's no error, true if there's some error from the latest call to the on the objects. And then so Boolean error, and also we got string, also the error message. If the error happens to be false, that means the error message should be empty. Otherwise, it should be some string value for us to print out. So now, there are two methods associated with these two attributes. One is called set error. Okay, so you can set the error to be true and also set the error message. And also you can reset the error to say the method has no error, so you should really set the error to be back to false, and then the error message to be empty string. Okay, now where do we use it? Okay, this is where we use it. So now, for example, for every method that we did before, we're gonna review them and then to see if we should really signal an error. If you don't have to signal an error, you don't need to worry about that. Okay, now in the case of the add course record over here, I'm gonna use the helper method I defined before. If there is no error over here, I simply just gotta reset the error to really make sure the attribute value for error is now set to false and the error message is set to empty string. Otherwise, the course title does exist already, so in which case I'll set the error. Okay, so now how can we distinguish that in the toString method? in that case, we simply say if the error is actually true, then we actually print out the error message. Otherwise, we just print out the entire string student record, okay, like what we did before. Okay, let's test this very quickly. So now you can go to student tester over here. So now let's say we try to do this one over here. Now we can say, and then we can just say s.toString, same as before. Nothing we got to do. Okay, let's run that. Let's say for ECS 2030 over here, you can see over here, adding new course with clashing title ECS 2030, we will say error title ECS 2030 already exists. Okay, hopefully you see that. Okay, so now, okay, let's just see one more method as a case study, and then I'll leave some exercises for you. Okay, let's review all the methods we have. So for the add course record, we already got some error handling over here. And for the second version here, it's simply called the first version, so we don't have to worry about it. What about get marks, for example, get marks. So what should be the error condition for this? Okay, for get marks, we can say error if the title does not exist. And I did leave something over here. I say else part, which means the index is actually less than 0. In that case, that'll be an error. What should we do over here? Let's try. Okay, if there's an error, what we should do is set error. Okay, set error to be, we can say error title plus title, which is the input, does not exist. And in the case where it does work, in the case where the title does exist for us to find, we can say reset the error. Okay, like that. Okay, and then what about set marks? Okay, I'll leave this as an exercise for you. And also get break grade point over here. Okay, get break grade point. Yeah, nothing to really look for. So I think that's about it. Okay, so now these are, I just leave one thing as an exercise for you. Hopefully you can see how to complete that. Okay, so now one more thing I want to illustrate to you. You might be wondering why it is necessary to have reset error even though there's no error. Why is that necessary? Okay, I will show you why it is necessary. Okay, so now let's say this. Hypothetically, let's comment this out and let's see what happened. Okay, let me go back to student tester over here. So now I want to just show you just by for this particular method called get marks. Let's say I don't have the proper reset error over here. What's going to happen? Okay, let me give you a particular sequence of method call. Let's say s dot add or s dot s out marks of non-existing course. And then I have s dot get marks, and then EECS 2011. We know that it's going to return -1. Okay, and then after this, if we say s out and then s dot to string, let's see what's going to happen over here. If we execute it, it's going to be something like this. You can see we're gonna have marks of non-existing course 2011 will be -1, and also when we try to print out the toString over here, it's gonna say properly that title ECS 2011 does not exist. That's okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so that means you can imagine that. So now up to this point, what we have is this. Okay, let me just it's actually reset again. So now error would be true, and also the error message will be we simply say 2011 doesn't exist, right? Okay, that's what we got so far. Okay, for these two attributes. Okay, let's now try to add another thing. What about this? Immediately after this, if I say s out over here, marks of existing, let me just call the same method, but the input should be valid. Existing course EECS 2030. And then S plus S dot get marks. And then EECS 2030. And then I will say S out, S dot to string. Let's see what's going to happen over here, right? We should expect to return from 2030, it should be 65, right? And now when we say s.toString, string, because this latest method call s.getMarks 2030 should not have any error. So that means the toString should not display any error anymore. But let's see if that's really the case. If you execute the method over here, you will see that, wow, you can see that marks of existing course EECS 2030 and 65. However, the last line over here, when we say s.toString, is still displayed. Title EECS 2011 does not exist. So it's still reporting about the long ago s.marks 2011. So you can see that without properly resetting the error back to default, you can run into trouble like this. So how can we fix this? Well, exactly what I commented out. If you go to student over here, what you should do is, for every method call, if you do have a case for set error, you should have another case for reset error as well, the other case. Make sure either you set it or not set it. You gotta be explicit. Okay, so now after this, what should we have? So now after this, we will say, run the code again. Okay, so now it's much better. So you can see now, marks of 2011 minus 1, and then we when we say s.toString over here, s.toString over here, we're gonna have ECS 2011 does not exist. And then when we go to this one over here, for which case 2030 does exist, so there was no error. In that case, the toString method is going to print out this output over here without any error message. Okay, hopefully you can see why we are having this reset error case over here. Okay, so this is one way of handling error in a just by adding two attributes over here, error and error message. The catch is you gotta be careful. Every time if you have the set error in one method, you should make sure in the other branch of the same method, you should also have reset error. Otherwise, you will run into the issue like what I just illustrated to you before. Okay, be careful. Okay, so we have finished developing this student class. You can see that so far we have developed quite a bit of code over here with lots of explanation and illustration. What you really want to do is, before you move on to the third model class, which will be a student management system, the way we implement a student management system will be very similar to how we did for the students, but we're just adding one more level of complication. We'll show you in the later videos, but before you move on, you should really try to review what you have seen so far and make sure there's no doubts before you move on.